Mm-hmm.
Really? Yeah, is there a Yeti microphone?
I need to like do my hair. Hair and makeup.
Built-in ultimate console.
I don't remember how to do this.
You want both?
Yeah, screen share. That's it.
Yeah.
So you use multiple passwords and console over
Love that.
conceptual.
I just hardcode everything.
Yeah. I'll tell him you said that.
Why does it say often?
Question.
No.
This is live now, so let's see. Oh, if it's not, we'll find out soon enough. All right, so sounds like they turned off the AC.
Shouldn't have.
Yeah, I'm going to keep that on. All right, so welcome everyone. Thanks for coming to April's GDG meetup down here in Orange County. Today we're going to be talking about serverless. Some of you may already know, some of you may not. Hopefully there'll be something that you can take away from this, and possibly you'll even see my really bad node skills come into play as we do a demo at the end of it. Any questions, you feel free to jump out. This is a community, we want to answer them. But if it's something more in depth, I'd like to leave it to the end, and then we can all chime in on the appropriate solution.
We can whiteboard it even. I think we're doing that 2 months ago. We're whiteboarding out a solution, talking through it.
We were, exactly. So this is a Google-sponsored event, and as such, there is a code of conduct. I like to think that we all know how to behave ourselves. And we've all been doing this a while now. This is we're about to enter our second year doing this. So we haven't had any problems yet. Everyone just be good to each other. And if you do have any questions, anything that comes up that you want to let us know about, talk to Jared or myself, and we'll get it resolved. And I think that's it. I'm going to jump over to the main stuff. Okay. All right, a little bit about me. I'm the director of the Google platform right here at Neudesic. I've been doing open source and cloud for a long time. Been doing Google for about 3.5, 4 years now. So what is serverless? To talk about serverless, we sometimes need to go back and think about the journey of how we got here to serverless right now compared to where we were. So way back in the beginning, I'm sure many of you know this, we had on-prem systems. And as part of that on-prem system management, you would have to deal with all the pieces that go along with managing your own servers, right? Patching, upgrading, deploying, all of this good stuff. So the next iteration is IaaS, it's the cloud. So in the cloud, we have VMs that are managed by Google or another provider. And you still have to manage them, you still have to deal with them, but you're no longer provisioning and dealing with hardware. Fast forward to a few more years ago, we start having PaaSs come out. So these are the Herokus, the app engine type things, where you take code, you point it at a service, and the service goes ahead and runs it without your involvement. All making sense so far? All right, so finally, the latest iteration of serverless. And the only consideration with serverless should be, how do I build my app? And I'll be happy to share all these slides at the end, if you want. So, again, asking the question, what is serverless? And answering it with what is serverless. Serverless is essentially just an abstraction of compute, of servers. It's enabling you to deal with things at a much bigger scale just by handling events, instead of worrying about all the infrastructure that comes along with it, all the plumbing that comes along with it. You just deal with handling of HTTP or other kinds of events. And the final piece that really comes in to help with serverless is the billing. You're no longer running servers 24/7. You're getting billed for the compute that you actually use, and as soon as your function is done running, it shuts down. All making sense so far?
Report guest password, this Wi-Fi password.
Yeah.
On the board, I missed it.
It's key Diddy values. I can help you with it.
It happened in there.
There you go.
Piece of cake.
So,
Thank you.
when talking about serverless, we need to think about architecture and how to put these things together. So, a few years ago, Urs Holzer and some other people wrote a book about treating the data center as just one massive computer. And that was the beginning of cloud computing. What we're saying now is that instead of treating individual computers, we now look at the cloud as an digital entity. And we no longer worry about what is driving the applications or how they're written. We just worry about the capabilities that it provides. So Google and some others, they like to think of the cloud in kind of four fundamental abstractions. There's your compute, your processing power, everything you have to do. There's the messaging layer that allows these individual pieces to communicate and to work together in a loosely coupled manner. Storage, obviously we need to put somewhere to put our files. Could be any kind of blob data you put into a bucket somewhere. And then you've got databases, which can be a traditional RDBMS or a NoSQL type thing. And this is how they map somewhat to Google. On compute, you've got App Engine, functions, and now Cloud Run. Storage, obviously, you've got GCS, messaging, we've got PubSub, and then there are various databases out there that are truly serverless. You don't have to worry about how many nodes you're setting up. You don't have to worry about any of the communication details. They're just running along. And again, being Google, there are obviously many APIs and machine learning capabilities that come along with that. But for today, we're just going to focus on these three, because compute is what we're talking about today. So, App Engine. App Engine. Anyone use App Engine? People a little bit. What do you think of it?
So it was a bit of a pain to use. I did a very minimal bit. A lot more people on my team were exposed to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mostly heard their pain.
Yeah, that's another hand up over there.
Yeah, I actually like it compared to, it's pretty straightforward. So,
Right, I'm in the same boat. It's the one that I tend to reach for the most because it's very easy to take an application, especially something that is somewhat akin to a traditional application with a framework and everything else. It's very easy to get it up and running in App Engine. The nice thing about App Engine is that it handles a lot of the details for you. Again, you just throw code at it, and it deals with setting up HTTPS, load balancing. It can handle versioning for you. You can do a lot of the things that you'd have to do yourself, but with the caveat that really it's well suited to running with frameworks that already exist. So if you've got an application that is an HTTP listener, it will probably work well on App Engine. App Engine comes in two flavors. Anyone use standard? No. So standard is kind of like a pre-packaged, these are all containers. I should roll back and say Google does everything in containers, right? So these are predefined containers that you deploy your code into that have been already tweaked by Google to be very quick to start up, to have a runtime that is approved and secure and all the rest of it. And if you can fit your application into a standard App Engine container, what you get is the scale to zero and almost instantaneous responses when you do a deployment. Trouble is, only works for certain runtimes. With Flex, you have more options available to you. Pretty much any container could be made to run in Flex as long as it supports HTTP endpoints. Which takes us on to functions. So functions are just very lightweight pieces of code. They're designed to run independently, and they're triggered by either an HTTP request or a pub sub event or uploading something to a bucket. And you treat each little function as its own piece of code, and you deploy them independently. And now that gives you a chance to get towards something called true microservices, where one piece of code doesn't need to know about any other piece of code. These things are very well suited to be used as glue. They scale to 0. You pay for what you use only. This is truly sub-second billing, but there are some caveats that come along with it. If you want to do authentication, go to yourself. Yeah.
I don't know if we'll get to this later, but I wanted to know what you meant by lightweight, and if there's, maybe we can talk about that afterwards. But I was just curious.
Yeah, lightweight. I think we'll see in the demo, hopefully.
Okay.
But for sure, there's no framework involved. You're not going to be running Flask. You're not going to be running Express or anything like that. You just write the handler and not worry about how the request gets to you. So that's one of the ways in which it can be bad. Take the example I was just saying of authentication. If you need to authenticate OAuth or something like that, you've got to do it all yourself. And you have to do it in every single function. You can't have a wrapper that addresses everything. At Next this year, Google announced something they've been beta for a while, which is called Cloud Run. It used to be called the Serverless add-on to GKE. Now it's Cloud Run. And it's basically serverless Kubernetes, which is itself an oxymoron, I know. Well, obviously, Kubernetes is there, but you'll no longer manage it. Google will spin up a cluster for you, or you're using one of their own ones that they've got on standby. Basically, when you run your code, you're creating a container that gets deployed to a GKE runtime that you're not managing. And this is all based upon Knative and Istio. Was anyone at the Knative and Istio meetup in December? Right, okay, so we have one person who knows this well, but can you describe what Knative Istio is?
Well, I'll try to remember. I haven't gone in there and.
You're wearing the right t-shirt for it.
It's a mechanism to stand up serverless running on Kubernetes. And it handles the scaling aspects of matching the number of horizontal scaled out instances to match the demand that you'd have on that serverless. I believe you can write your own serverless functions in any number of languages. I think it's an open spec, so theoretically, if you're willing to do the work, you could probably do it with any language of your choice, but some of the popular ones, a lot of the work is already done and you can find working examples.
Exactly. So back then we did a demo in Go. Today we'll do it in Node, just because it's a little easier given something we're going to talk about. But it's exactly that. Istio provides the glue.
And I think it had the service mesh provided for it.
That's the Istio
That seems
piece.
to be a big takeaway.
So anyone know Istio? Have you used it in production?
No.
Not yet.
Not yet, just in dev and submitted to test
Yeah,
yet?
they're piloting it in dev environment,
Okay,
not in production yet.
very cool. You want to tell us what Istio is? Or give us
The
your...
service mesh, it abstracts a lot of the boilerplate activities that are required between communication between different services, such as like monitoring and
Mhm.
authentication and stuff of that nature.
Yeah.
Very high level, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's perfect.
What have been first impressions of it? Is it, for the most part, the dev team?
So
likes it?
what we're experimenting with is running Kubernetes with preemptables with Istio.
Okay.
And so we're trying to, it's a very cost optimization focused project. And we've heard various success stories in the industry and we're trying to see if we can replicate that kind of success.
Very cool.
Google's been big on this year. There were a lot of sessions this year
Yeah.
at Next about it. One of the things it does is you can programmatically say, or at runtime rather, you start declaring what you want and it will bring together all the glue for you. So if you're deploying a container with an endpoint, you can tell it to automatically provision an ingress, set up TLS through Let's Encrypt, let's say, register your domain, register a record, an RR record in your domain handler, all this kind of stuff free. And that's why Cloud Run is based upon this. You get the portability of Knative, and Istio does a lot of the plumbing for you.
So what is like the unit of work that you'll see from Cloud Run? Is it like a pod? Like you can say like kind of
It is. So underneath the covers, it's a pod. Like if you deploy it to GKE, you can actually deploy Knative through Cloud Run onto your own Kubernetes cluster if you want to. Yeah, it's kind of a stepping stone. So yeah, it does deploy a bunch of pods, but it will go ahead and set up an ingress controller for you, a service for it.
And that's what Knative is.
And that's what Knative is, yeah.
Now, this auto-provision Kubernetes, can you stand up traditional Kubernetes things? as well
Absolutely.
And then have them interoperate? Is that why?
You can. It just, we'll see it. We'll try and get that in today.
Okay.
And you'll see all the things that it doesn't do for you that you still need to do for yourself if you do it on your own Kubernetes. But absolutely, Cloud Run is really just a branded version of Knative. So anything that Knative will run on, theoretically, Cloud Run will also execute upon. So you can deploy Cloud Run as an add-on to an existing GKE cluster, and it should just work. Well, it will just work. And if you're running Knative on your own clusters or a different provider, you should also be able to use the same primitives that are coming to help you write functions for Cloud Run. Those should work on your own environments as well. We're going to try that later. So yeah, I think we should just cover this one. So one of the, one of the more interesting demos I went to at Next was about portability of functions. So one of the traditional problems, if you will, of these functions, of these very lightweight applications, is that you're not using a framework. You're not using a runtime that is generally portable, right? They've all got their own little hooks into Express or into Go handlers or whatever it may be. What Google's doing to try and make it easier, to make it more portable for you, certainly on the Google Cloud, but also potentially other places as well, is that they are coming out with what they're calling the functions framework for the most popular runtimes. So one of the ones that's available right now is Node.js. And what it does is it hides all the details from you and your code of how your function is hooking into something. So, excuse me, I'm so sorry. So rather than write a whole Express layer and then add handlers and routes and everything else to it, all you do is write a function that's exported that takes a request, knows how to deal with the response, and that's it. How that actually ties into the underlying system is handled for you by the functions framework. So you can take functions framework and you can use it with Cloud Functions. You can use it with Cloud Run, both the fully serverless one and the one that installs onto GKE. And it's supposed to support Knative in other environments. So I haven't actually tried that myself yet. Node.js is available right now. And Go, thank you, Python and Java are in early access that you can sign up for. And as soon as those are supported, as a target runtime for functions, you'll be able to use this functions framework along with those two.
So Java 8, not Java 11.
Java 8, that's what people are asking for apparently.
There's probably more.
It was,
Oh, yeah, Java 11's, yeah, it's the new one.
Yeah.
And things don't all work yet.
exactly. So, and it's a whole new learning curve. So if you've already used to Spring or something like that, so look into it pretty well.
Yeah, they're on Python 3.
That's Google. Java's kind of an old, well, it used to be big at Google. It's not so common.
So are there any languages or frameworks that have full, like, or I'm at a loss for words, like full support for this, or is this so new that everything's pretty much in testing, like with betas and?
This is still a beta. It's available right now, so you can npm install the Node.js 10 supporting library and use it on Cloud Functions, Cloud Run, and we'll go through that.
So there's like a GCP driver for this that I could go onto npm and install it.
Yeah, it's just a JavaScript library. You can install it on npm.
What's
And
the
what-
name of it?
Google Cloud /Functions Framework. We're gonna try that in a bit. Actually. But yeah, it's open out there, and at runtime it's able to detect: am I running as a function? Am I running on Knative? Am I running on these things? And it will then hook it up appropriately. But the whole point, if I go back one, is it's going to be very idiomatic. So if you're already an Express user, these kinds of functions should be very familiar with you. If you're a Go person, it's just an HTTP handler. You don't worry about how the request is getting there. You just need to handle it. Oh, wrong button. Okay. We ready to try it down?
Good.
Yeah. All right.
That's the best part. You can feedback on, by the way, Matt.
Oops.
Your feedback on.
Thank God. I'm dying here. All right. I am a Emacs guy, but hopefully this works for me. Because I've been told it looks prettier on the screen. Can you all see that? I need to.
Yeah, I can see it.
All right. So, crappy typing later. What I'm going to do is write a handler that takes an environment. What's the environment variable for process env?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, I'm doing it in English. English.
It's not normal.
That's very
Exactly.
Yeah, I tried making your computer more English for you, Matt.
You did, didn't you? The fact that I didn't spot that for a while really surprised me.
Neither do I.
I guess like.
I made
like
Isaac's Australian.
Has like I learned entirely through JavaScript, so it makes sense that.
Yeah, I'm doing this in JavaScript, but apparently there is a TypeScript set of types, I guess, that comes with it. You can do it all.
Pretty much everything goes to JavaScript
Yeah.
these days.
The rest of second.
Yeah. Should be.
Okay. So,
So everyone here painted TypeScript, or there's some detractors?
TypeScript.
Never put in JavaScript.
I'm just allergic to JavaScript in general.
There are some people who are in the school of not liking TypeScript because of supposed overhead costs, so.
There's no
I'm not in that
cost.
school, but there are some people who seem to oppose it.
I like Facebook too.
There isn't a lot of overhead. I don't know why somebody's saying there's overhead on the TypeScript. Because at the end, it's still JavaScript.
Because apparently the way that TypeScript works is that TypeScript transpiles into JavaScript, and that overhead creates a lot of transpiling.
How is that different from the?
Apparently it takes a lot more time to like build things.
No, it depends if your tsconfig file is set up properly or not. If you start scanning for TypeScript files in all the directories, that's where the time takes. That's where the time is taken. If your definitions are in one location, it's very quick. Because it's incremental compiler, it's not just like any
I
other.
can't remember the guy's name, but he was just raving on against it, so.
Also depends on when he used TypeScript.
There's a lot of people who are wrong on it.
Really?
I've just been burned so much on JavaScript with type issues that.
You know,
Yeah.
checking if it's null, checking if it's undefined,
Oh my-
checking if it's empty string,
Oh.
and then null checking every children along the way.
Checking. I think all of JavaScript that I write is like checking.
If.
Oh, yeah, now I remember the guy.
Have you guys ever had to deal with floating points or no?
If anyone's ever heard of him.
Not
Because
yet.
you try to handle floating points in JavaScript, it's very interesting. Try to do 1.0 plus 2.0 equals.
Oh yeah, I have. Right now, because right now,
Try to
POS
compare that
system.
to 3.0.
POS system, which is a pain to have to do all of that.
Yep, so for a POS system, just a trick that we use, everything's in cents, nothing's in dollars.
That's everybody.
All right.
Conversion to swipe.
So what we've been talking about, I installed the functions framework from Google. It's just an npm install.
Okay.
And it's added itself. And what I've done is I've added hopefully the right language so that an npm start should be all I need to bring this up and running, which it looks like it is. If I click on that, oh, I've got to set the bloody environment. But I didn't install Express. I haven't installed the functions, what's it called? Emulator, sorry, I forgot what it used to be called. The functions emulator or anything like that. The package that comes with functions framework is enough to fill in the gaps and do that for me. So if I put in I think this is the image. And try again. Okay, now it's running. So that's it running locally. All I had to code was that one piece here, this one export, this one function, and install a package and then tell it how to run it. So if I want to make that into a function, I need to do a functions deploy. See, this is what I did earlier, which is always good.
That's it, yeah.
All right. So what I'm going to do is actually just go to the console so we can see there's nothing actually there right now, hopefully. So this is a project already set up, so it's up and running, but it doesn't have any functions deployed right now. If I got this command right, it will go ahead and package up this source code and send it over to that function.
2 minutes.
That won't take 2 minutes. You know, it's Google. Let's tell you how long it might take, and then it'll be like that.
So how does it work behind the scenes? I mean, how is it doing that matching? Is it based on signatures or?
I believe it's based upon checking the environment, seeing what's there, and knowing where it's put in there. But it's on GitHub. You can take a look. Yeah, I'm looking to it. So it's you know, like I said, the Node.js one is out now. They're also doing it for Go and for Python and Java as well at some point. Okay, so that looks like it's done. Let's actually see if it goes through. So remember, that's from a zero cold start. No instances were running. Now there's a function running that is handling that.
Matt, how's this different from Firebase functions? It's the same thing, right? Except
They are definitely converging. They're coming from different directions, but it's I think they're taking the best of Firebase because it was ahead of our functions for a while. And I'm sure at some point they'll be one and the same. But that's me speculating. Obviously.
I was just asking, like, is there a difference between the two other than?
So yeah, cloud functions can't hook into Firebase events, like a database event. I can't do any of the real-time stuff yet.
But as far as the languages are concerned, and that's all the same, right?
Again, converging. Yeah. So that's well and good. But let's try deploying it to Cloud Run. So I have to cheat and remind myself what the command is. That's the kind of person. Okay. Got to do my build. So Cloud Run, because it is still Kubernetes, needs to have a container with which to work. So I do have a very simple Docker file here. All it does is, use Node from the repos, copy over the source code, and then do an npm install and then npm start. Because it's a copy over our package, npm start is obviously going to use the frame frame functions, framework. Can't talk. So let me go ahead and just build that. This shouldn't take very long. Okay. And then I'll push it. So you look in the container registry, there should now be an image here that I just pushed up. Yep, just now. And it's going to be scanned and everything because I've enabled that. So now we can deploy it. And beta run that. That's why. Is it still a beta? I need to do this. And
Are you naming your function here?
I'm using, let me get rid of that. It's using the name that's exported. So over here, I've got, you can do a mapping, give it something a more exotic export name, and then map that when you put it in there. But for this demo, it's easier just to make them match, right? We get less issues. One of the things is when you're deploying a function to Cloud Run, it's all got to be lowercase, and a bunch of other restrictions as well. And so because of that, we want to do, which one do I do?
Not called to run on GKE, right?
No, I shouldn't be doing that one. Oh, that's, I don't know. Let's try to do something from my app. Trying to pick up my the problem with the beta product, it's still using some parameters it shouldn't be using.
Oh, it's okay, we're in cluster.
No, it does not. Let's see which it is. Okay, so I've got a, by default, Cloud Run is usually a private only, it doesn't expose it. So I've got to say, yes, we're okay there to do it. And what it's doing is it's creating a container, or it's creating a service for this application in a fully managed, come on, it's killing me. Container filter stuff.
These windows don't know.
Pardon?
These windows don't know.
They do if you run hard enough. Let me see what I'm doing here. We've do this before, but let's see. Is it publish? What the ports are?
Oh, expose.
Expose.
Yeah.
8080. See if that's why it's doing it.
Where's the
time
mapping?
spends up there with Docker.
I can see that.
You didn't have to do that before.
Oh,
Actually.
that other document container.
So we'll
It's able to find it because the functions framework is there.
Depends on
mapping
how I
at
have
the
it.
container level. So
That's what I'm asking.
So it's not gonna create a node porter, it's gonna create a balancer as well on top of that? Or-
it uses the CO egress gateway.
Okay.
So it's using what's
Okay.
provided under the frame, but oh, this was working earlier.
Does it have to be 80 or?
Yeah, I don't even have one in there before. But let's see if anything needs to be
There's
cleaned up.
something else blank.
Let's take a look, see if there's anything left running there. All right. What don't we like? Oh my gosh, of course, we don't need that. Yeah, okay, so we don't technically need that exposed, so I'll take that out. This is our problem right here. And watching YouTube will edit that out, right? I really should be versioning these, but as you can tell, I can't bother.
Nice.
All right, yeah, now it's working. Yeah, there we go. I like that, right? This should now be green. So there should be a, where is it? So it's gone ahead and set up a public URL for us. Now it should say this is again from a cold start. So let's see what it does. Up there and running.
So I think I'm missing something. Sorry for the
No, please.
slow question. I guess I was surprised to see a Docker file in there because you're talking about the other serverless where, like, as long as you have like an inbound HTTP, you could spool up a Docker image. So I assume that if there's some custom framework that you plug into, you wouldn't need a Docker file.
So it's only for the fact that Cloud Run is still Kubernetes based.
Okay.
So being Kubernetes based, there must be a container in there.
And so then my next question is for concurrency. If I have 5 requests concurrently, like happening at the same time, is that 5 Docker images that has to spin up rather than handling like one node instance, like being.
It's going to be, well, behind the scenes we can't see because, again,
Sure.
there
Yeah,
is no
we're-
cluster running.
Sure.
Right. There is I have a demo cluster here, but it's not running that service, just so we can see that right now. It all depends, whatever the policy is that it uses, right? Because one container one pod, to be realistic, can definitely handle 5 connections, right?
Yeah, that's why I was wondering, like, does it spin up a new pod?
It will do, but what the metrics are that it's using to determine that are hidden from us.
Okay.
They're secret sauce.
Yes.
That's
I'm just curious to see.
You don't care.
Yeah.
Well, I
Now-
do and I don't.
You do and you don't, because one of the problems that happens with functions is that if it's executing and you try and do another request, it's going to spin up another one, absolutely. So you can get thousands of instances when it's a function that's running concurrently if you don't set the guardrail and say no more than 10, no more than 100, no more than 1,000.
Even Cloud Functions, they just released that feature at Next.
Yeah.
Oh, it's new.
Concurrency limits. You can say, oh, I only want 10 of these running at any given time.
Yeah.
So you don't.
Because you get burned by it.
Yeah.
You know, if you bad piece of code's point artillery at it or Apache Bench or something, you're going to have a nice bill at the end of the month, right? So, that is, as you said, brand new this month. So I'm going to tempt fate and actually try and make it run on Kubernetes now. Let's see, and this one's a little more involved. Okay, still the same code. And what we should, see that way. Now, if we look at my Kubernetes cluster, we should start to see, let's just, some of this. Now you can see it's actually spawning up a pod and service around it. Let's see, is it still running? Yeah. So by default, it gives you a URL which is next to useless. I definitely don't own that domain. I didn't have time to set it up before then get it working. So I need to find our Istio ingress right here. That link. And because it uses the magic of headers to do this stuff, I need to tell it what host it was going to, so that probably matches. Next. There we go. I'm just going to have to do a curl here because I can't get Chrome to send it up. But again, that was not exactly a from zero because it was already running, but because the ingress had been set up, because it knew how to do the mapping to a service based upon the host header of the URL of the HTTP request, it's able to route it over there and make it work. And I'm very pleased that worked. That's
The criteria to say keep the system running for a minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and then
So-
stuff like that.
when you run it yourself, the Knative, let's see if we can actually see that. It will send it back down to 0 after a certain amount of time.
0 to 0 pods if that's still on there.
Yeah,
GDG.
GBC probably should be at 1 by now. It did come down very quickly. Let's see if we can force it up. We gave it conversion. When the UI is not keeping up fast enough. Yeah, it's scaling it automatically. I just think it's too quick for the UI to keep up with it, which is kind of what we're looking for with these. If you do it yourself on GKE, if you're running the cluster, you can configure those timeouts, how long it lives, how long it backs off, all that sort of stuff. And then again, that's why I think of the Cloud Run on GKE is kind of a stepping stone for people who are trying to get to serverless or want to dabble in it, but don't want to go down an OpenFAS route, for example, or serverless framework or anything else. But it's definitely competing in that space.
Do you have any metrics on cost for pure serverless like an app function versus running something the overhead with
So no, I don't have any realistic real-world costs yet. We're one of our App Engine internal applications. We're migrating over to this, especially now that we're on the Go beta, to see what difference it makes to ours. And because we know if this comes out next 6 months down the line, we're going to have customers that are going to be interested in it. No one's beaten down our door yet. At that point, we'll know more about the real costs. But it's always that same curve. If you're doing a lot of this, it makes sense to run your own cluster and aggregate the cost over multiple services, as opposed to using Cloud Run functions. But if it's intermittent, event-driven, not happening all the time, then there are some real cost savings to get from functions as opposed to running a 10 node cluster 24/7. Even if you're using preemptible, it still adds up.
Do people like that? What were you saying? App Engine? Do you have customers like that?
Yeah, I like it. I mean, it's old school, it's 10 years old, but it just kind of works. As long as you can-
A lot better over time.
Yeah.
When segment was absolutely miserable, mostly because we had to do stuff outside of the normal build.
Yeah, even just
It
using it a
needed,
few
it
years
needed
ago.
its own build and deploy cycle from everything else. It was very manual steps of build the thing, I now have my jar file, I need to upload it, give it a version number, oh crap, there were a lot of manual steps, and it was really easy to foul one up and not say, oh, here's the new one.
Yeah.
It's gotten better.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there were a lot of pain points. And this was 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, there's still not every application will run, not every application should be run.
Not every framework works. Sometimes you have to use environments meant for one to kind of run another.
So the standard environments are very, very restricted. You've got to be, your application has to fit into certain languages, certain runtimes, and a certain way of doing work. The flexible one, you can do a lot more, but you always need some, if you want quick responses, low latency, you have to have at least one instance running 24/7. So now it's a trade-off between that and a cluster or anything else. Yeah.
Using the service mesh with this, is it extendable to talk to other instances running in alternate clusters or alternate regions or on-prem?
So from the functions,
Yeah.
that's just coming. So that was another announcement at Next, is that they are allowing functions to reach into VPC. So when you deploy containers and applications into Google, you got VPC that sets your boundary, your where things can go. Whereas functions are very much in either Google's VPC or public, depending on which way you want to look at it. So functions are now able to hook into or call into, let's say, a VPC with firewall rules and everything else and still work. Cloud Run probably will as well. Cloud Run on GKE definitely, because it's part of your cluster. So whatever networking you've set up, whatever routes and firewall rules you allow will work. So you could have a Cloud Run on GKE function, if you wanted to, that cooled down to an on-prem if you've got a VPN set up, for example.
Oh, I think at Google Cloud Next, they announced a bunch of on-prem stuff too.
Yeah.
So can you stand this up on-prem?
You can stand this up on anything running Knative according to the docs. So that could mean the other providers, it could be on-prem. As long as it's running Knative, which by default means Istio and everything else, you can deploy to it. And if you set up the advanced policies on Istio to do the routing between clusters, that should all work as well. It remains to be seen, but that's what they say.
I have another question. I don't know if you're planning to start thinking about versioning and like how, kind of more from a code architecture standpoint of like, how do you deal with the fact that you might have like 6 different versions of functions, and you might want to do like it seems like you might lose some of the service mesh advantages of using Istio if you suddenly use cloud functions. Is that something that people are still just learning how to do or playing with?
Yeah, I mean, it's so new, I don't think many people are asking the questions yet.
Okay.
But if we just talk about functions, forgetting about the Istio and the Cloud Run and everything else, that is definitely an issue you have, is do we start having the function name reflect the version?
Yeah,
which is easy to do, but kind of ugly,
Mhm.
right? Or whether you just assume's the wrong word, but you just have that policy that it's okay to move forward, but not back, right? So backwards compatibility is an issue. Yeah, but if you're worried about the version, if you need to support more than one version, cloud functions aren't the way to go without maintaining 2 separate named functions. With the containers, yes, you could. And as a Cloud Run, because it's a container, you could always version. I just did latest, but I could always do 1, 2, 3, whatever, tag them with sharp codes, whatever.
Yeah.
Right. Other questions? Is anyone using something similar on a different platform? I'm so focused on Google, I don't even look at Amazon or Azure app right now, but I'd love to know what they're doing if anyone's doing similar things.
Got some stuff running in OpenFast, Google Cloud.
Yeah.
It's been a mixed bag.
What drew you to open FAS, if I can ask that question? As opposed to serverless or, any of the others that seem to be out there?
It was suggested by somebody and someone ran with it, and I was not any of those people.
That's a very diplomatic answer. I like it.
So we very well may move it to, let's see, like over, like the functions.
Well, K8 wasn't available yet.
Yeah.
Decision was made like almost a year ago.
Okay.
Or
6
maybe
months
six
ago.
months ago, yeah.
It's in production, it's working, but might be good. It seems like it would be pretty simple to build containers. No doubt.
Yeah.
Having used Open FAS, so I do serverless, but not.
But it sounds relatively straightforward.
Yeah.
Excellent. Any other questions, comments, concerns? All right, very cool. Well, before we wrap it up, all this will be posted, shared on the site. We're having our meetup in a month's time. Newman has volunteered to talk, so I get a break. Fantastic. What were we talking about? Was it?
We're going to talk about real world app and backend running on a Google Cloud infrastructure. So we'll cover things like TensorFlow, data lakes, PubSub, how everything comes together. We're not using Cloud Functions, so I won't be able to talk about it. But it would be like real stuff. I'll try to demonstrate how things plug in together instead of in isolation. So it'll be a good thing for people who are starting out or they want to see how does it look like when you scale to like when you're going and addressing thousands of users to 100,000 users to millions of users, not something in dev-only environment, right?
So thanks for doing that. Hopefully it'll be back in Google Irvine. It's a bit more space, one of their rooms. But yeah, please, if anyone wants to hang around and talk about anything, great. Please eat the food. I don't want to take it home. I'm going to be on a diet. This is killing me. One last thing, if you didn't sign in, please do. Google wants to know roughly how many people come to these things. So thank you.
Cool, thanks.
Are we all here?
No, not all of them.
What's Neudesic? Are you guys Google Cloud Consulting?
Yes.
We work with Google Cloud. We're agnostic, so we do all three. But Matt and I